to Bill Flynn in the morning.
Good morning. Bill Flynn this morning. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour with our friends at GrowinGreen, and I happen to know Jonathan Rigsby is in the house. In fact, I see the door flying open, and he's on the phone, and that's the small businessman's heart right there. Jonathan, good morning and welcome. I haven't seen you on the show. We've had Tommy Cowett, who does a great job, but it's nice to see you.
Good morning, Bill.
It's been a few weeks since you and I got together.
It has. It's great to be here.
By the way, just so you know, I want to make sure you got the message. I had Smith Patterson and his wife came over to the house yesterday. Now, Smith he's taken care of golf courses. He's done lawn maintenance professionally some decades ago, and so he really he has a good eye for things like grass and how it's growing. And out of nowhere yesterday, Sunday, he said, your lawn is looking really great. Kudos to Jonathan and those folks at GrowinGreen. And we talked about, this is the time too. Summertime is not known as now your lawn looks great window, especially when you got some repair work to do, as I did. But I thought it was a great compliment to you and the staff at GrowinGreen that it was that noticeable that quickly. Oh, yeah. And like I told Smith out in the hallway after I got over, just being able to talk to him, such a personality and celebrity. I'm excited for this fall because when we started doing your lawn, we were kind of on the tail end of the summer. We had a little catch up to do, and it takes about 2 years to really turn one around, and we're getting there. This fall, we're going to do your seeding. It's going to look really good. It's going to thicken up. We're gonna kind of cross that threshold this fall and into next spring, and you're going to be really pleased. It's a powerful thing, because as the homeowner, you see it every day. But when somebody has maybe it's been weeks and or months since they've been by, and then they can really see, the progress of how things are. And I imagine if I went back and I had taken photographs, real carefully along the way, I could see it. But it is an encouraging thing. And it does point to the issue that what we're talking is, an over time. This is a commitment that, needs to happen over a couple of growing seasons, really, to see the full effect of what you can bring. And I know, for instance, we talk about your lawn. We talk about Tommy Cowett's lawn, and how Tommy talks about he doesn't water it that much. It's every once in a while. Doesn't do a lot of weed treatment because the grass is so thick. The weeds are not really finding a place to grab a hold of. Exactly. And I say all the time, the only time I've ever watered my lawn is installation. If you put the right plant in the right place, the plant will be fine. And it can weather the storm. It can weather the climate changes. So that's really the key, is the right plant, right place. Talk to me a little bit, Jonathan. I know that we've touched already on it, but this season of time, this window to go ahead and schedule with GrowinGreen and or get done yourself using maybe some products from GrowinGreen, which you can, for instance, Tom has mentioned you can buy the seed directly from you. But what are the things we need to be planning for on the calendar right now so we end up with some things to be proud of for our lawn next season? Well, right now, we're starting to get a lot of phone calls. Especially people have kind of let it go all summer. And to your point, it is a ongoing process. We really like to start people in the spring, get their weeds under control, get what they have healthy, and come into the fall, even if we're a little thin, into a clean environment to seed into. Because when you start watering and fertilizing, the weeds are going to grow just as fast as the grass does. So it's important to get those out. Now, if you didn't start in the spring, it's not too late. But what we need to do is come out, do a cleanup application, get your weeds under control. Some people, we may just come out and kill the whole thing. If they're all crabgrass or all weeds, we make the decision to go ahead and kill it and start over. Now's the time to do it. And if they'll do their part with water, Mother Nature helps out a little bit, we'll have the lawn, in great shape by the end of the fall. Now, it'll have to keep maturing, but we'll have it out there. This summer, in hindsight so far, what have been the biggest threats to the lawn? I know brown patch was something that cropped up where some of your technicians had seen and dealt with that. Was that one of the bigger threats this past season? Brown patch is a threat every season. You know, when I first started in this industry, we didn't do brown patch control. The only time you saw brown patch was when somebody sodded a lawn and they overwatered it. Now, the fungus, because it's soil-borne, is so proliferated around the triad that if you're going to take care of your lawn and have a nice lawn, you just about have to do fungicides to keep it looking healthy and really to keep the stress off of it. And that's really what the fungicides do, is it allows the plant to de-stress and kind of protect itself through the summer. The brown patch may not be what kills it. It may be the other effects from the heat and the plant's too stressed out to really fight it off. And it's a lot of times, just like with cancer, it's generally not what kills you, it's the treatments. It's all the stuff you go through that really kind of takes its toll on you. And then the same thing with lawn. It just, it really kind of creates just a hard situation for the lawn to survive.
As you look back to, our recent weeks with the temperatures and the rainfall that we've had, anything really good, bad, or otherwise about this 2015 summertime we're looking at the tail end of now?
Well, it's actually been, for our cool season lawns, I'd say a normal year. There hasn't been a lot of, droughts. We've had decent rain. Where we've been really focusing a lot this summer is our Bermuda lawns. We had a lot of athletic field winter kill. Just about every athletic field in the Triad got killed this year. Every golf course took massive injury. So we've really been fighting to get those fields back since about May the 1st. And this year, we started out about a month behind with Bermuda coming out late. So that was even kind of made it a little bit worse. But all our fields are looking great right now. The Bermuda's come in well. It's been a great season for Bermuda. We've had just enough rain, just enough heat to really help it. So,
well, that was a tall order. Here you are in pretty desperate situation with multiple fields, multiple clients in the case of GrowinGreen, and getting a kind of a late start because of the arrival of the plants themselves, because they had a late season. Those are not all factors going to necessarily make for a great outcome. Clearly, being in the field, the technicians and getting it done right has a lot to do with that.
It has everything to do with it. We were not dealt a great card this year. We had a late start. We're dealing with fields that have heavy traffic. They get multiple sports played on them. Clients with very little budgets for this kind of thing. So we really had to recreate the wheel this year and pull it off, and it was to a great team with GrowinGreen that pulled that off.
That's a
with
great
Scott and Rodney and some of the guys that just really pitched in and helped.
That's a great place to pause for this segment. We'll come back with our next segment. Hey, by the way, if you've got a question about your lawn, maybe you've noticed something that you're really excited about or maybe not so excited about, we'd love to hear from you this morning, and our expert is none other than Jonathan Rigsby of GrowinGreen. We'll be back in just a moment.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980, The Eagle.
It is the Love Your Lawn Hour. Jonathan Rigsby is the turf commander, and he is the owner of GrowinGreen, and started this company some years ago with an idea and a wing and a prayer and a few bucks, and lo and behold, these years later, you have people that are over multiple counties in the listening area here, certainly Forsyth County and Guilford County, and Alamance, I know, is another one that you service. Where are the other ones that are?
We go all the way to Alamance County, almost to Mebane. We go out into Advance. We've got a few kind of on the verge of Moxville. We've got some in Rockingham County that we're starting to service. Stoneville, Madison. We go down towards Davidson County, Lexington, Thomasville. And we've got some all the way to Lake Tillery. We had a small business we bought down in Troy and Biscoe, and we've still got a lot of those customers. So we're pretty spread out. We've got 10 trucks on the road every day servicing customers, and they get around pretty good. I have to say probably the greatest thrill that I get is to come over here and see a truck on the road. Go to, be out and about, see a truck. And everywhere I go, I see our trucks now. So, that's really, really cool just to be out on a random doctor's appointment, whatever, and there's our truck sitting at a stoplight. Any part of town.
That is a great thing. And Growing Green is what we're talking about. And by the way, if you have a question for Jonathan, and over the years, you've seen, I hesitate to say everything, but I mean, it intrigues me that if there is a problem that shows up in a lawn or a field somewhere in this area, in your service area that you've just talked about, either you have seen it before or you know somebody who's not only seen it but dealt with it successfully if it's a problem area. Talk to me about those resources that Growing Green has developed over the years.
Well, and that's a great question. And back to the earlier question about some of the strange things we've seen. Really, last year this started, but we've started to see a lot of big tree problems, a lot of mites, and a lot of small worms, scale, especially on oak trees. And we have a customer that you're going to be very familiar with, the King, Richard Petty. And Richard, last year we sprayed his lawn. We got a call from the caretaker saying all our trees are dying. Well, we rushed down there, of course. They had the Forestry Service there with us, the extension agents. And, you know, the first thing everybody wants to point to is, oh, you sprayed yesterday and it killed the trees. And as we all started looking, we realized it was only on one species of tree. They were just on white oaks. And we went into the woods and we found it on the white oaks, and they were all being attacked by a new mite that we're seeing hit the triad. And when you've got trees all around you being attacked, it's hard to really manage those because you have to do them by the tree. You can't go in and spray 80-foot trees. And then a lot of times they won't kill the tree, but if the tree's injured from something else, that's when it'll kill it.
But you do have a new treatment in the last recent years here at Growing Green where you can literally give the tree a shot depending upon what the condition of the tree is and the type of tree. You can actually almost inoculate it against some of these problems. Am I understanding correctly what you have?
Exactly, and that's what Tommy had been working on to be able to help basically offer plant health care to trees. Because we have another big problem we're going to see coming up is gypsy moths are coming to the area. We have for stuff like Canadian hemlocks, we have woolly adelgids, and we've got some other problems that are starting to hit the area now that are pretty concerning for the big trees. So unfortunately, with big trees, once they're affected, a lot of times it's too late. So we started the plant healthcare division, and we're really kind of formulating it now for next year, but we're able to treat preventatively trees that are important, trees that are under stress, maybe in a parking lot, and help kind of rejuvenate them and give them the nutrients they need to make it through the stress.
By the way, just yesterday, I had a couple of stumps in the yard removed with a stump grinder. I don't have one. I hired it out. And something came up, and I wanted to get your thought on this. The stump grinder said, I see there's some roots over here, not really next to the root that I'm grinding out. Do you want me to take these roots out? Because they were coming from trees and other parts of the lawn, and they had kind of gotten close to the surface on some of them. And I said, I decided not to mess with those roots because I didn't want to injure or damage a tree that might be being healthy, just happened to have a root or two that were a little bit close to the surface. What would be your answer to that situation?
Well, most of the time, the roots that you see above ground that are sticking out, especially on maples, oaks, they're more for support than they are nutrition. Most of the roots that feed the tree and provide the nutrients, you can't see them. They're really microscopic. They're in the soil. And they're, if you start digging around them, you're going to disturb those. But to cut that big root out that's coming under your sidewalk is probably not going to make a whole lot of concern to the tree. Generally, the trees use those for stability. And if you'll look, the canopy of the tree basically is where the drip line extends to. That's where the roots generally go. They're generally a little bit out past that. So when you're thinking about planting a tree that you don't want to be, into your sidewalk, really give it enough room to spread out so you don't have to make those decisions.
And that's really a 15-year decision when you're planting a tree, or even a large shrub. I guess similarly, you're going to have some issues of similar concern, right?
Exactly, and I actually couple of weeks ago, renovated my whole landscape while my wife and children were out of town for a few weeks. And my landscape's only 7 years old. But it had gotten so overgrown so fast while I was out sick for a few years and couldn't really maintain it, that I had no choice but to really renovate it back and take it back down and start over again. So, and I'm going to be putting those pictures up on Facebook and up on our blog to kind of illustrate that very point, that you can, even if your landscape's overgrown, you can start it over with the right pruning techniques. And I'm not talking about shears and shearing them off like a meatball. I'm talking about really structured pruning, going down into the plant and really understanding what the plant wants to do.
So were you able to salvage some of the initial plants, or did you, in your case, did you start almost all the way over on everything?
No, I salvaged a good majority, and what I did is a lot of the stuff that had gotten overgrown that was probably the wrong plant for the wrong place, I took out and then let basically the strong survive.
Okay.
And so it looks really good. I'm going to put the pictures up today. And so
all right, and the website is growingreen.com, growingreen.com, growingreen.com. And we'll be back in a moment at 896-1980 if you have a question for our lawn expert today.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980, The Eagle.
Good morning. It is 9:35, 25 till 10 o'clock. Bill Flynn this morning. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour. We have with us the turf commander of GrowinGreen, Jonathan Rigsby. And by the way, if you would like to call directly and find out more about what it is they can do for your lawn and your garden areas and things like that, maybe you've worked hard to get them along the way, but you want to push it to the next level and have some professional help, you can call them at 1-866-LAWN-HELP, 1-866-LAWN-HELP. You can also log in to the website at growingreen.com. And one of the great treats there at growingreen.com, and by the way, this is available whether you're a client or not. You have something called Ask the Expert, which is a button you can click on GrowinGreen, and you have recent discussions about things that are going on right now people can be looking out for. For instance, what are some of the things that are available right now?
Well, it's interesting. I actually answered one last night, and we're getting a lot of questions on there right now, so it's starting to really take off. A lot of the questions lately are customers looking at our website, asking stuff like, do you spray around gardens? When can the children go back out? Very, very important questions that may not get answered in a sales call. And just a quick, hey, that's on my mind for making this decision. So those are great things to send in. I've had somebody ask me about getting rid of clover in their lawn. I've had one ask about the tent worms that we're seeing right now, in the trees, the big webs of caterpillars. And I answered that one actually this morning before I came. So it's a great resource for a quick question. It can give me anything about the lawn landscape we'll answer. And a lot of times it's stuff that it's so kind of remote, most people may not understand it. And we generally have an expert that will, if it has something to do with the lawn and landscape.
That's a beautiful thing. You talked about, is it safe for the children to go out after a treatment? And these kinds of, for instance, in our house, we don't have children because they've all grown up now. And we're the empty nesters. But to fill up the space, we have 4 dogs, and we have a dog door, and they go in and out. The other day I needed to go out and hit some areas with some weed killer, and I really had to plan the day around the dogs, because I knew I wanted to make sure they got out in the morning and were able to have some nature time. But then I certainly didn't want them close to the weed killer, certainly while it's wet, or within a reasonable window of time for that to dry off and be a problem free. But these are issues that you deal with on a daily basis.
Well, and as great as Google is, if you were to ask the question, how long does the Roundup have to dry before I can send my dog out? You Google that, you're going to get a general answer. You're going to get answers all over the country. You send that through Ask the Expert, I'm going to say, well, it's going to be hot today, an hour or so, you're going to be fine. on an overcast day, we're in August, hour and a half most. So we can get very specific to this climate, to this area, to what you're actually doing, and really give you personal attention at a very, very quick. And I'm actually getting ready to switch that over to like a message board format. So people will be able to see the previous questions that were asked. So they may say, oh, that's what I'm looking for. And hopefully we'll get enough traffic to really kind of build a good database.
I've been peppering you with all kinds of questions based on things I'm hearing in the neighborhood and in our own case here. But I want to make sure that if there's a topic or two you wanted to bring up on the show, we have time to do that. I certainly got more questions for you, but you always come loaded with some ideas and topics that you want to hit on. Is there one or two you wanted to make sure we know about?
Well, one of the things that are really, you mentioned earlier about doing the lawn right now. I was in one of the big box stores and I was looking at their seed last week. And right now everybody's looking at seed and weed and feed. And we've got a national competitor who's out doing some radio commercials on some other stations. And they're talking about aeration, overseeding, and weed control. And the big box stores are the same way. And those two can't be in the same subject unless they're very, very specifically laid out. Because once you seed, you can't do weed control for 6 weeks. So, and why that's important is if you are out and going to buy stuff to do your lawn, you have to be careful that you don't buy weed and feed. You don't buy halts. You need to really read the label of anything you're going to buy right now to make sure it's not going to detriment what you're putting out with seed. And one of the other big things I saw is the quality of seed that's out there in some of these big retailers is not very good. And
now talk to me, when you say the quality of seed, are you talking about the plant that ultimately is going to grow from that seed, or how ready that seed is to turn into a plant? Or are there such things as dormant seed that can be in there, or dead seed, and or the purity of the seed itself? What are the elements you should look for?
Well, the biggest thing that we look for is we ask, our seed is Blue Tax certified, and we call it a 000 seed. No noxious weeds, which are basically weeds you can't get rid of. No weed seeds, and I'm talking 0.0%, not 0.01%. And here's the one that everybody misses. Other crop. When you look at some of the big box stores, you will see 1% other crop, and that other crop can be weeds. Just because the state of North Carolina doesn't consider it a weed, you may in your lawn.
What would be an example of other crop that may not fall into the weed category in some of these?
Italian ryegrass is a big one we see. When you go out and you seed your lawn and you'll see these small, bright green patches in your lawn in the spring, that is Italian rye that comes in the seed. We also see rough stalk bluegrass, which is it's a grass, but in your lawn, the definition of a weed is anything growing out of place. So it may be bluegrass, but if it's in your lawn and you don't want it, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. And a lot of people just grab it up, don't pay attention. Well, 1%, there's 350,000 seeds in a pound of seed. You're putting 6 pounds of seed on your lawn per 1,000 square foot. So let's think about that for a second. That's almost 2 million seeds in a 1,000 square foot area. 1% of that can be weeds. So
that's a lot of bending over, yanking something out of the ground that you have planted.
Exactly.
I think you're doing the right thing. All right, we're going to take a short break and come back with the final segment of the Love Your Lawn Hour, and last chance to speak to Jonathan this morning. If you have a question, 896-1980. I'm Bill Flynn, and this is the Love Your Lawn Hour. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. We continue with the Love Your Lawn Hour this morning. It's a great chance to talk to the turf commander at GrowinGreen, and that's Jonathan Rigsby, a man that started a company with a vision and really a real heart for doing a great service for folks and being accessible and making it local. And It's a great story because I don't have to tell you, but I mean there are some huge companies that are a part of the your daily competition that have, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars potentially as far as their resources. And here's you, this guy, and that's growing all kinds of ways with your company. Not that you have those kinds of deep pockets, but you do have an understanding of this part of the country, this time of year. Really, ultimately, too, the clients that you're talking to, and an insight to what they're wanting and they're concerned about. So,
well, and the other thing, to even deeper than that, we understand different cities in the triad. When you have a company who makes their agronomic decisions about your lawn in Ohio, and they send it to a branch who the guy may have transferred from Ohio, and all the technicians have no experience, what kind of service you're going to get? So we know the difference between the soils in High Point and Greensboro, Kernersville and Winston, and there is a difference. We have a lot of sand rock in High Point. We have to treat it differently. So our guys are very, very attuned to what's going on around them. I'm a phone call away. Tommy's a phone call away. We have professors at NC State that help us. We have great relationships with them, industry folks, PhDs, that we can get out at a moment's notice if there's a problem. And one of the things I wanted to really, really mention before we get off the air today, two things. Mm-hmm. One, if you want to do your lawn this fall and you want to really have a nice lawn, now's the time. Don't wait till after Labor Day, because it takes 2 weeks after weed control is sprayed before you can seed it. So by the time somebody comes out and does an estimate, we spray the cleanup app, we do the weeds, you're going to be first or second week of September. And we're booking up fast right now.
Now, real quick on that topic, for the do-it-yourselfer that normally would go down to the box store and buy a bag of seed that's got some weeds in it and some other crop or what have you. You were talking about that 0.0% product that you have at GrowinGreen. Tommy has mentioned that you can buy that as a 50-pound bag directly from GrowinGreen if that's the product you want. Is that something that has been going on for a while now?
Yes, we've always sold the seed to our customers and anybody who wants it. Basically, we have the GrowinGreen Water Saver Blend. It's Blue Tax certified, 100% weed-free. They're what we call semi-dwarfs. They're made for this area. A lot of them were tested at NC State and in Rolesville, right down the street. It's by far one of the best blends we've ever used. And we sell it in 50-pound bags for $95. And when I was in Lowe's, one of the big box stores the other day, they were selling 25 pounds of far less quality seed. And I think they were selling it for $61, $62, somewhere in that range. So when you do the math, I've noticed they put 25 pounds in a 50-pound bag now to kind of throw you off a little bit. So when you do the math, make sure you're comparing apples to apples.
And the other thing that the value we're talking about here, for instance, I think of like in military application, to get that performance just a percentage point or two better out of that jet engine, you generally have to pay a lot more. And by performance in seed, by getting it down from 0.01% other crop and or weed or whatever down to 0.000, that incremental percentage difference, that requires an awful lot of precision. It requires an awful lot of concentration on product that you don't get just anywhere.
It does, and with us, we test everything we put out, and it's kind of the opposite with seed. The big box stores have to buy for a lot of stores. They have to buy millions and millions of pounds of seed, so they can't be as picky on little things. They're looking for more volume to fill their shelves, where we can be very picky and say, all right, we only need 50,000 pounds of this year, so we want the best we can get. We go for quality
it's
first.
Coming back to you,
Exactly.
If you put out the seed and then you got to get rid of the weeds from that homeowner,
Exactly.
you've got a whole nother motivation.
And that's the big thing is, people go out and put seed with weeds in it, and then they want us to get it out. And some of it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff you can't get out once you put in your lawn. So
what's an example of something that's really tough to get rid of once you put it?
The rough stalk bluegrass is really hard. the Italian rye, unless you just spray it with Roundup. There's no selective product that'll take it out. The other thing I wanted to mention, I have partnered with a gentleman named Alan Branch, and Alan owns a gym in Kernersville named Fitness One, and together we're working on something called the Man Coach. Really, this is Alan's project, but I'm going to jump in on it with him today. But Alan's doing a great job of bringing professionals like myself and him together for men over 45 and 50 of topics like taking care of your lawn, keeping in shape, financial planning, bringing all these experts in the triad kind of together to talk about different things. So he's got a great blog. It's themancoach.org. Go on and check it out. My blog's going to be coming up this week, and I'm going to start having a guest blog spot there with them, so you'll be able to follow me.
All of this on your website, or where is this ultimately going to go?
We're going to put a link onto our website, but it's themancoach.org. And if anybody has a question, they can send me an email through the info at GrowinGreen, and I'll send them the website. But Alan's got great guest bloggers like myself on any topic from the triad that affects men, even women, on fitness, financial planning, heating and air conditioning, anything to do with your home, just being, getting to 45 and making those decisions. What do I do now? I'm getting a little older. I don't want to spend all my time working in the lawn. I don't want to spend all my time in the gym. I'm not getting the results I used to get. So check it out. He's got a great book on there that he's written about it, and it's a phenomenal read. I just got done with it, and I'm really excited to be part of this project with Alan, and look forward to doing some great posts on there.
That's an exciting thing, and at some point it will be also linked directly on the Growing Green website as well as the website you just
exactly
gave.
Okay,
yeah. Real good. Now I did want to just again, the whole seasonal thing that we've kind of kept the thing going on the show so far. I'm reminded of how deep we are into the season because already I've got some leaves that are beginning not to pile up, but to, clump up a little bit. I've got some poplar trees, for instance, that are typically pretty early to say goodbye. I guess that's what they are, to their leaves. But that's a whole nother segment. I mean, you don't want to be doing all of these great things for your lawn and have leaves piled up on top. That's going to, cause a problem. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, the biggest thing is before you start and get ready to do the lawn, clean it up, get the sticks up, get the leaves up, and then keep it blown off through the season. If you blow it off once a week, it's not going to be a problem. If you let it go for 3 weeks, you're going to have a problem.
What are some of the problems if you let those leaves sit there too long? What's going to happen? What's the detriment to the lawn and the work that you're trying to do? What will happen?
Well, basically, it's going to, when we go in and do a seeding, we ask the homeowner to scalp the lawn. And what that does is it puts the lawn into shock a little bit, and it kind of shuts it down for a few weeks so it's not growing. And that allows the sunlight to get down to the new seed and allows the new seed to use the water and the sun to come up and have a little competition, or kind of reduce competition, really. Well, when you're putting leaves on top of that, you're smothering it. Those new seeds cannot take a lot of traffic and wet leaves being laid on top. They're just going to kill it. And then you're going to go out there in the fall and get them all up and realize you have a bare lawn again, and the seed didn't take. Well, it took, but you raked it all up and you smothered it. So it's really important to get the lawn clean, scalp it before you do your seeding.
And when you say scalp, normally you cut it 4 inches. What's a scalp cut?
2 inches, as low as you can go without just creating a bunch of clippings. And then get the clippings up too. You don't want those laying there either. Normally we don't tell people to collect clippings, but you don't want them on the lawn laying there. The other thing it can do is, obviously when you have moisture and heat, you're going to get fungus. And one of the biggest things, probably the biggest thing that we see now that we didn't see 10 years ago, is seed coming up and damping off from fungus, where it's hot and humid in September, water, and it just takes it out.
Wish we had more time. Always great to see you. Jonathan Rigsby, Growing Green, growinggreen.com, the website, 1-866-LAWN-HELP.